So your mixes sound muddy, flat, and weak. Why though? It's because your instruments are fighting like two toddlers in a sandbox. So your kick is disappearing into your bass line, your vocals are being swallowed up by your synths, and you think, maybe I'll just turn the volume down, that should help it, throw some EQ on there, and that should probably do it. But you're still finding that your mixes are just quieter and they're just muddy at a lower volume. But what if I told you there was a way to actually fix that? And it's really easy and simple once you get this idea. And this is like a secret weapon. It's called sidechain compression. Okay, I'm not talking about the simple EDM bass kick thing, while that is one of them. But I am talking about using sidechain to make space in other places. In this video, I'm going to be talking about 7 tips that will help you with sidechain compression. Let's get into it. First things first, my name is Kirk. I've been producing for over 20 years, have had some label releases, all of that great stuff, played some great shows. Okay, the problem is simple. Let's just make this easy. It's like building a house. You got to start with a really good foundation. And the kick and your bass, that is the foundation of your house. The low end is the foundation. If you got a shaky low end or a muddy low end or things that are not built correctly, your foundation and whole house on top of it will crumble. Okay, first tip is cleaning up your foundation, the low end. The problem is simple. You have your kick, you have your bass, they're living in the same space, and it's just kind of muddy and they're not really gelling correctly. So let's go ahead and take a listen to my bass and my kick in this track. Sounds cool, but some parts are really just conflicting with other parts and it's just not really gelling correctly. So one thing we want to do first is we want to make sure that we EQ the bass so that it's not living in the same frequency range, but we find that it actually is. Our kick lives here too in this same frequency range. If we take a look at this EQ, so we have our kick and our bass. This is our kick, this is our bass. Notice how they kind of live in the same spot. Without making this a really long video, I want to actually walk you through what I'm doing here. First things first, sidechain, you got to select the trigger for which you're going to use as a sidechain. So that's basically your kick drum here, and I chose that as my kick. And every time the kick plays, the bass will get out of the way. This is basic sidechaining. You can find a lot of tutorials about it. This is that typical pumping thing you get in EDM. So I have kind of like a semi-quick attack on my compressor and then a sort of slow 50 millisecond, 61 millisecond release on there to kind of really get the bass out of the way. So let's listen to it really quick. Notice how there's more bottom in the kick. It doesn't really get buried without it. With it. So if you're trying to get your kicks and your basses to sit well together, well, now you know how to do this. So how do you keep your synths really big, but don't have them overpower or muddy up your vocal or even just mask them? Here's a really cool way to do that. I'm going to show you right now. It is called the invisible vocal breathing trick. Okay, so check out this vocal right here and check out these synths and see how they're kind of sitting together. Notice how it's like kind of hard to hear what's really going on. They kind of live in the same spot, and I like the tone of my synth, but what I want to do is make sure that there's space in there. So this is that invisible trick. Check this out. So we turn on our compressor and we'll route our channel here to the vocal that is the lead vocal, and then what we do is set our attack and release to kind of quick. We have 29 milliseconds on the release. We have about 7 milliseconds on the attack. We have a lower ratio, which is 3.5 to 1, and then our threshold is not super intense. That's because we don't want this to be like a pumping effect like you hear in dance music. We want it to just be a mixing effect, which makes space for our vocal. So let's take a listen to it without it. Okay, so now let's hear it with the vocal Okay, so now let's hear it with the compression. I'm going to pronounce it so you can hear it a little bit better.
I can feel his hands pulling me into deep.
So why is this any different than just turning down the volume? It's a little bit different. It's more dynamic. It actually makes the track breathe a bit. And now you know how to get your vocals and your synths to play well together. Here's how you can add huge reverbs on your track without cluttering up your mix too much. Check this out right here. So on this track, I have a vocal that is being sent to a bus. This bus has a really long reverb, 22 milliseconds, super long. Let's take a listen to it.
Experience with you.
Now you can see it could get really muddy really fast if we just leave it like this. So the way you want to do this is make sure you have it on a return track like this. Then you want to take your compressor, throw it on here, and then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to sidechain compression, we're going to go to audio, and we're going to select our vocal track here. So let's go ahead and find our vocal track. Boom, just like that. Turn that off, change it to FET because I like the way that sounds. There's no reason. And then I'm going to do this. I'm going to turn this ratio way up, keep the makeup gain to 0, and I'm going to use the attack here and kind of put it to about 7.5, and then turn this up just a tad to about almost 100 milliseconds, and then we'll bring this way down to minus 25 dB, and we'll see how that sounds now. So every time the vocal comes in, that reverb's going to go away. Check it out.
Experience with you. Calling me deep.
Okay, so we're going to route our vocal to our compressor like this, go up here, and we're going to pick this one right here. That's our vocal. And then we'll go ahead and we'll play it, and you'll hear and watch how this vocal gets out of, or this reverb gets out of the way when the vocal is going.
Experience with you. Calling me deeper. Yes, I can.
See how every time it stops, it comes back? So what we're going to do is tweak some of these settings. It's a little intense. So let's go ahead and tweak some of these settings. We're going to use a quicker release, maybe, quicker attack, and then let's see what that sounds like.
Experience with you. Calling me deeper. Yes, I can feel his hands pulling me in.
Okay, so now let's go ahead and see what it sounds like in the mix.
Experience with you. Calling me deeper. Yes, I can feel his hands pulling me into deeper experience.
So this is where the magic happens. It's when you're messing around with that attack and release, and you can actually get this massive reverb to just swell in. Definitely a really cool trick and a really cool way to use sidechain for your tracks. If you want to use really big reverbs without muddying up your mix, now you know how to do it. This trick is for when sidechaining your whole instrument is too aggressive and you want to get more surgical with it. First things first, there's two ways you can do this. You can use a dynamic EQ, or you can use a multi-band compressor for frequency-specific compression. So check this out right here. So on my kick, I have a Pro Q3, and then basically what this is doing, this band right here is frequency dependent. When this kick hits, this compression is going to turn on. So check this out. And here's without it. Here's with it. So this is being very surgical with it. I've got a wider band. You can go as narrow as you need to. Be careful not to do this too much because you can turn it into a comb filter. Here's another way you could do this. You could use a multi-band compressor, something like a C6 or something like, just the Isotope one, or even just Logic's here. You turn these on, you set the ratios, you kind of pull these down a bit, and we'll see what it's doing. Okay, so we don't want this much compression on here, so let's go ahead and pull this up. It's kind of doing the same thing, so we'll make up for it. With it, without it. Notice you have way more control when you're using Notice you have way more control when you're getting surgical with your compression. So now you could use this sidechain trick when sidechaining your whole instrument is way too aggressive. Now you know. This sidechain trick will actually help you get your snare or your clap to punch through the mix without clipping. So what you want to do is make sure that all your drums are in a bus. So I have it here, and I'm going to throw a compressor on this bus. Trust me, it'll be fine. Turn off all of this stuff, and then we're going to use the FET, and then we're going to go here, and we're going to find our clap. Here's our clap. And we're going to throw that compressor on there as our trigger. And then we're going to dial in these settings. So let's go ahead and set this to like 4.2. We'll bring this back to 25. We want this to be quick so that it doesn't completely drown out our mix. So we're going to set the attack and release fairly fast on this one. So let's go ahead and take a listen to what this sounds like without it. So the clap comes through, but we want it to come through just a tad more. Check this out. You can hear the snare a little bit more, or the clap a little bit more. Turn it off. Here we go. Actually adds a kind of cool crunch to it and gives you a little bit of dynamic as well. Let's take a listen to it in the mix. Make it a little shorter and a little less intense. So this will help you get more dynamic drums. You could try this with any instrument, but try it with your snares. Okay, this trick is super cool. Check this out. It's really a great way to add stereo width to your tracks using sidechain. Check this out right here. So first thing you're going to do is find a track you want to duplicate. We've got this one. We're going to duplicate this loop. And we're going to pull it down here. And then we're going to add a super wide. We're just going to make it super wide. So we're going to go to specialized imaging right here, actually. And then we're going to go to stereo spread, and we're going to put it super wide. We're going to keep the lows in the middle. Okay, and then the next thing we want to do is go ahead and put a compressor on there, just like always. And then we want to go and find that same loop in our sidechain option up here. Turn all this off, and we're going to set this. We're going to want them to fight. And we kind of want it to be like something where you really do hear it. So check this out. Just mess with these settings. Make it really short. Okay, watch how this brings a ton of dimension to your track. Check this out. This is the normal right in the middle. And I'm going to put on the stereo right now. This works really well for cymbals, for hi-hats, for shakers, these kinds of things. Try that out in your next mix, and now you know how to do this. Okay, you made it. I'm going to show you this rhythmic gate trick, which is really cool. You can either use a gate or you can use a tremolo. This is Logic. We'll show you how to do it with a tremolo and a gate. But it's a really cool way to create rhythm in your tracks using a gate. So let's go ahead and take a listen to... So this is how I'm doing it with a tremolo. This is not exactly a side chaining technique, but I'm going to show you how to do it with a gate as well. So this is left and right, and if you really want to make it just like a gate, you just hit 0 on the phase here, which is kind of cool. Or you can go like this, 180, and have it pan, which is something that I actually enjoy. Super easy, but let's try it with a gate. Now you're not going to get the same panning unless you put that in, but we could do it with a gate here too. So we go to dynamics, we go to noise gate, and then let's go ahead and set it to that synth, which is this guy. And then so what we're going to do with the threshold is turn it up. That's actually kind of sick. So let's go ahead and take a listen to the mix. So there's that rhythmic gate trick. You could do this with a whole bunch of things: white noise, sirens, synths, and you could use a whole bunch of other instruments like your drums, or you could even write something new without an output, and you can actually make something rhythmic out of sidechain. Pretty dope, super awesome tips. Now, if you like this video, go ahead and hit like and subscribe on this if you want more content just like this, and leave a comment below which one was your favorite.